San Francisco! You are the best. I love this city. I adore it. I was here a couple of years ago and filming Venom, the second Venom film, and I really had a good time here. You know how to live, you guys. It's a awesome place.
Well, Andy, let's dive right into it. We're going to jump around a little bit of your filmography, and we're going to take some fan questions, play a fun little game. But I want to talk about Gollum first, because...
Okay. That seems like a good place to start.
Great place to start. How did you mentally and physically prepare for that role when you got it, and knowing that a lot of the things that you were going to do hadn't really been done yet?
Well, it was when I was first approached to play the role. It was explained to me by my agent, when I first spoke to them on the phone about it. They said, "Look, they're making this voice for a digital character," and I was like, "What? I mean, there must be a dozen good roles in that movie. Can you not get me up for something decent?" I mean, and they said, "Well, it's Gollum," and I said, "That's a decent role, yeah." Yeah, I'm listening. And but originally, what it was explained to us, as I say, that it was just going to be the voice. And then when I met Peter Jackson, when I auditioned and met Peter Jackson, he explained that they were just on the verge of trying out this new technology called motion capture, and that he wanted an actor to be on set to act with the other actors, because up to that point, you know, many CG characters were only represented by a tennis ball on a stick, and the actors had to pretend that they were having a relationship with it. And Gollum, as many people know, kind of drives a lot of the scenes and kind of drives the sort of wedges between, you know, Frodo and Sam, and it's all about the interaction. So he wanted an actor to play that character. So I went about kind of thinking how the kind of motion capture aside, I just approached it like any other role, you know, getting into the psychology, as you say, the physicality, and then the voice. And none of those could be separated from me. I can't just come up with a voice. It doesn't work like that for me as an actor, you know. So I started to think, one, about the guilt that Gollum felt, you know, from killing his cousin, and how that guilt was where it was trapped, and I decided it was trapped in his throat, and that would then, that kind of involuntary action that then helps propel the sound of Gollum, you know, where does that come from? And as I was working on the voice, and this is true, and many of you may know this, but my cat, Diz, came into the kitchen where I was working on the character and started to cough up a furball. And I just saw the kind of his spine kind of rippling, and he started to go. And that is exactly where that's where it came from, you know.
So we have your cat to thank for that.
My entire career is.
You are a pioneer in motion capture, and we see it so utilized now with physical actors doing those roles like a Rocket Raccoon with Sean Gunn. Can you talk about how far that technology has come from Lord of the Rings to where we are now?
Yeah, so when we were actually doing Lord of the Rings, I was on set and I was filmed in a very thin suit, the kind of skin-tight suit which you will know of now. And then what happened was the animators Peter Jackson saw me, you know, crawling around as Gollum and, you know, being the character, and he sort of changed his approach and went, we're going to film Andy's performance, and then the animators were going to copy, you know, literally sort of draw over, rotoscope,
yes.
The performance, and then, but for some scenes where it was just like a close-up on Gollum, I would go back and repeat the process, having been through the scene with the other actors, and in a motion capture suit, do a very sort of early, rudimentary way of motion capture, and we had a tiny little area to work in, and I was looking at the shots which were put up on screens, and I could see on another screen, like if I lifted up my hand, as you know, if I lifted up my hand, I could see Gollum lifting up his hand. So it was like a magic mirror that I was learning to use, like I was being the sort of the marionette and the puppet, the puppeteer and the marionette at the same time. So it was kind of like a gradual process. Now so that was the process when we started. By the third film, by Return of the King, we were actually shooting motion capture on the live action stage. And then after that, it sort of, you know, I thought that would be the end of it. I thought I'd go back to my career as an actor in relatively conventional ways on screen. And then Peter Jackson asked me to play King Kong, and I thought, wow, this is incredible. I've just been playing this 3.5-foot ring junkie for years, and now I'm going to play a 25-foot gorilla. This means that typecasting is ended. I can play anything. And that was a big, you know, that was a big kind of, you know, the penny dropped for me, that here is this tool, this 21st century tool for an actor that enabled you to go anywhere with any character.
You know, let's stay on the topic of primates for a second, because I want to talk about Caesar. Let's give it up. Planet of the Apes, incredible performance. Can you talk about specific technology or techniques that were used to bring Caesar to life and some of that groundbreaking performance we saw?
Well, again, you know, it was all about the performance, and at this point now, the technology. One of the things that had changed was that we were able to shoot everything. Now we were shooting, because on Lord of the Rings there wasn't facial capture, and again it was the animators copying my facial expressions, and Gollum was redesigned to fit my, I don't look like him, I know, but to fit my facial features. When it came to, by the time we got to Apes, that we were able to shoot everything, that motion capture we were able to shoot on set in real time for the whole thing. And then through the course of the 3 movies, we were able to then take that technology out of the film, you know, the sets, and onto locations. So in Dawn, for instance, we were up in the mountains in Vancouver, in the forests of Vancouver, pretending to be in the woods. And then in War, we were up in the mountains in snow and you know, shooting in snow with motion capture. And and by then it changed from being just motion capture to performance capture, which means you're capturing the voice, the physicality, the facial, the body, everything, all at the same time, and you just do it once, just like regular filming. So that was the technology that advanced, but really it was what was incredible was being with a group of actors who were all playing apes, but it wasn't just about sort of mimicking ape behaviour. It's about character and creating a character and the journey of the psychological journey and the emotional journey and also the linguistic journey. They learn to speak throughout the course of the films. They're using sign language at the beginning, but by the end they're actually communicating using language. So over the 3 films you had that journey too. So it was a fascinating process, and it was an amazing cast of really talented actors who played different roles.
I love hearing you break down these characters, because you really do it from the inside out, which is such a fascinating psychological journey through these characters.
But that's because it's no different to I mean, you know, actors, the way that actors create conventional roles on screen. There isn't a special. You know, people say to me, should there be some sort of special category for performance capture, say for if you're rewarding, you know, a performance? But I always say no, absolutely not. Acting is acting, and it's just, instead of putting on makeup and costume, you're putting on a suit, and what is coating your body and your face is a form of, you know, digital makeup and digital costume in a sense.
Absolutely. Now, one of the characters I've always wanted to talk to you about, and I want to know more about, because is Snoke.
Wouldn't we all want to know?
Well, the reason I ask is, how much of the character did you know about going into the film, and then how much of that changed from The Force Awakens to The Last Jedi?
I knew nothing about the character when I went into the film. We were making up. I mean, we wanted this dark force character and a powerful character, but one of the things that the decisions that I did make was that I wanted him to feel like he was. He had suffered some psychological damage, and he had suffered some physical damage. Obviously, he's scarred, his skull had been crushed, and it was like he was like a clone gone wrong. And so he kind of almost felt that he, in order to hold on to his power, he had to put himself out there in a stronger and more kind of malevolent way, just to kind of cover up the fact that he felt inadequate. You know, those are the things I was thinking about. Because when you play a role, when you're playing any role, you have to find a point of connection, emotional connection, a point of psychological connection that you can relate to. It's not just he's not just the big bad. You know, there are reasons why he behaves in the way he does, and in order to play the scenes, you have to be very connected to you know, the internal feeling of the character. So that was what that was the way that I sort of began to approach it. But I mean, in all honesty, you know, there was a mystery around it, and I had to. I mean, it was crazy. You know, the amount of Snoke theories that were going around, as I'm sure many of you know, were part of, trying to work out who he was. It was a lot. There was a lot of smoke and mirrors because it was still being evolved as we were making it.
But you did know it was a clone gone bad prior to the character getting wrong?
No.
Oh, you didn't know? Okay.
No, that was something that we kind of happened upon and started to think about. Yeah.
Fascinating. You know, one of my most anticipated Star Wars projects coming up is Andor. I love Andor, and I love doing this. Can you talk to me about working on Star Wars, being, you know, Kino Loy in Andor?
I love that show, and I loved it because Tony Gilroy is such a genius writer. It's all about the writing, and you know, I remember him talking to me early on, and I was like, am I going back into Star Wars universe? So people were so confused with Snoke. I mean, are they going to start thinking that Kino Loy is some weird cousin of Snoke? Or, you know, this is going to confuse the hell out of people. And so I was a bit sort of, but then I read the scripts. You know, I went in and read the script and met with Tony, and he said, look, I want to make the Star Wars universe feel real. I want to write about themes that mean something to me. I want to write about fascism and power and the abuse of power, and I can do it in this arena and make it resonate, and it'll feel real and grounded. And so I was sold, you know. And then I read the character, and I loved the character because it was someone who, you know, in a prior life was probably someone who was a stand-up guy who stood up for other people's, for other workers' rights. I imagined that he was, and I actually based him on a brother-in-law of mine who was a quite a strong union guy who then kind of lost his way, and instead of, and that was all to do with the fact that psychologically, when there was a strike on, and he ended up by trying to save his own family, crossing a picket line, and it did his head in, you know. So it was sort of, I based Kino on someone who lost his way and stopped caring about other people in order to save himself, and then through meeting Cassian, you know, he finds himself again, and then leads them to freedom. So that was. I always try and kind of hook into something that feels real and, you know, or tangible to make the character work.
That's what I love about that show. It doesn't rely on the Star Wars iconography. It's just a great show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, I got to talk about your role as Alfred, which is probably my favorite Alfred in the Batman series. You did such a fantastic job. This is a two-part question. Can you talk about working on that film with Matt Reeves and Rob Pattinson? And also, were you approached at all to be in The Penguin? And have you seen The Penguin?
I love The Penguin. It's amazing. Have you seen it? It's extraordinary. I mean, Colin Farrell he's extraordinary in that role. He's fantastic. I mean, Matt and I go back. Matt directed Dawn and War for the Planet of the Apes, and we have a lovely friendship, and, you know, a very deep friendship, and we have, you know, kids, but both have kids, and so on. So we've all grown up during the films that we made together. And he asked me to play Alfred. I was like, this is a big ask. There have been so many great actors who have played that role, and I was thinking, what am I going to do with this role to sort of own it, you know? So again, I sort of, and Matt is a very emotional director, and what he brought to the Apes movies was exactly that. He made those, you know, the revenge that goes wrong for Caesar because of losing his family, and, you know, he always plugs into the emotional side of things. So he said, look, the relationship to Bruce and to Batman, therefore, you know, for Alfred, I just said, look, again, it's about, it's looking at where Alfred lets himself down and has let the family down, and that's the root of it. He feels he's unprepared to be any kind of father figure. He just doesn't know how to be a father figure. But what he can do is sort of train Bruce in skills that he knows, physical skills. He used to be in the army, the SAS, worked then for private military companies, probably worked for important sort of VIP people before he worked for them. This is all the stuff I've made up, but that he worked for like it could be the royal family. I imagine he might have worked for the royal family in the UK, and then went to work for Wayne Enterprises and for Bruce's dad, and then tragically isn't there for the when they're in their moments of need, and just carries that guilt with him and feels awful about it. But he doesn't know how to be a father is the point, and I think that was at the root of it.
Incredible. Have you guys started shooting?
I don't even think Matt's got as far as finishing writing it. I know it's imminent. The scripts are going to be imminent. So I think it'll be next year.
Incredible. Now, Venom. We got to talk about Venom.
Yeah.
Let there be carnage. You got the chance to step behind the director's chair. Can you talk about how the experience as an actor, particularly in motion capture, influenced your approach to directing at all?
Well, I mean, in Venom, we didn't actually use motion capture at all because Tom's such a brilliant actor, and his approach was different for Venom. He wanted to. He worked using a radio play, so he would record Venom's lines, and then he would have them play back in his ear, and then because he wanted to be able to place Venom wherever he needed him to be, and also because he's a symbiote that comes out from within, he wanted to be able to look over there and see him, and then sort of follow him around the room wherever he happened to be, and be surprised if he was around. So there was no. We had someone on set being Venom when he'd become Venom. What I was really keen to do was to make the relationship work. That was all the relationships to work, and then working with my very good friend Woody Harrelson, who I've worked with now on 5 different projects, who I adore, to bring Carnage to life, and that was really exciting. And seeing those two work together was just such pure joy. I mean, having 2 actors of that caliber work bouncing off each other was just remarkable to me. A real privilege to be on the same set as, and I have a very strong visual sense because before I became an actor, I studied visual arts, and so I'd always wanted to be a filmmaker and made short films and video games and it was actually I was about to direct my first independent film when Peter Jackson asked me to direct the second unit on the Hobbit trilogy. I thought my first film was going to be like with 3 actors in 2 locations, and it ended up shooting for 200 days with 250 crew, shooting at 48 frames a second with native 3D cameras across the whole of New Zealand. It was just like mind blowing. That was my introduction into directing, pretty much.
Wow.
So I learned a couple of things.
I'd say so. We know that it was Tom Hardy's last dance as Venom, but it seemed like it was Noel's first dance.
That's also very interesting.
Yeah. So where do you think that character? Not where is the character going to go next, but where do you think that character is going to go next?
I really genuinely have no idea. I mean, I really no. It was very much. Can you come? It was quite last minute actually. You come and do Niall. The voice for Niall, and so I came in and did it at a late stage, and then there was talk of this could go on, and this character could sort of. He's quite a big character. I was like, yeah, I know that. Well, let's see what happens actually.
Have you seen any of the rumors going around that where the character might appear next?
No, but I've had too many things on my mind.
There's rumors that it could be the next villain for the Spider-Man movie. Just saying.
Oh, I don't mind doing that, yeah.
There you go. You want to play? Can we play a fun game?
Yeah.
Fun game? All right. This game is called Who Said That? Now, I'm going to read...
I'm hopeless at these things, by the way, so don't, if anybody wants to jump in there, feel free.
Yeah, we can get some phone friends in here. All right, so I'm going to read a line of one of your brilliant bodies of work, and you're going to try to guess which character it was. The first one is, you have too much of your father's heart in you.
That's Snoke.
That is Snoke. Good job. 1 for 1. The next line is, and we forgot the taste of bread. It sounds like trees, the softness of the wind. We even forgot our own name.
Gollum.
There you go. Next one. I did not start this war, but I will finish it.
That's Caesar.
You are pretty good at this game. These are pretty easy, though, right? If this continues, it won't be long before you have nothing left.
Is that Ulysses Claw?
No.
No.
That is Alfred.
It was Alfred.
Good job. Good job. 4 for 4. Hey, 4 for 4. Now the next line. I can't swim.
Captain Haddock. I'm joking. No, of course it was Kino Roy.
It is Kino Roy. Good job. 5 for 5. Congratulations. For all of you guys that have questions for Andy, we got 2 microphones here. This side, I saw you first.
First of all, Joe, you've been crushing it.
Oh, thank you, man.
Weekend, bro.
Woo!
Amazing work. Amazing.
Your check is in the mail, sir.
Andy, thank you for being here for Thanksgiving weekend. I know it doesn't mean much to you, but thank you for being here for all of us that practice that holiday. Okay, my question. First of all, it's my wife's birthday. She's 35. Happy birthday, honey.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, precious.
She was. So, my question, Andy. By the way, I bought you a glass of wine last night. How was it?
Say that again.
I bought you a glass of wine last night.
I must have been very drunk. Of course you did.
Yes.
Thank you. That was delicious. Thank you very much.
No one in my family believes me that I bought Andy Serkis a drink. And you know what? That's fine, because I know what happened. Big fan. Anyway, my question. Your legacy is all-encompassing. You've acted, directed, produced. You're a pioneer in performance capture. Now you're taking on a new role, Old Gunner, the amazing football manager. I'm a huge football fan. My wife is Man City. I'm Man United. House divided. I love her anyway.
I'm Man United too. I'm with you.
Let's go, baby! With the proliferation of films and television about football, Ted Lasso and High School Wins, for example, how is this biopic going to be set apart from other successful films about footballers and management of football?
I missed part of that question. How am I connected to this in some way?
It was announced that you're playing Old Gunner of Norway, the football manager, the very prolific football manager.
It was news to me. I mean,
Well, the internet isn't always right.
it's the first I've heard of it.
I look ridiculous now.
This is going to be a report in Variety tomorrow.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I think I've been compared to it. People think I look a bit like him, maybe. I think that might be it. Oops. Yeah.
Well, your legacy, and you've been a pioneer. What's next for you to pioneer?
Well, I'm very interested in immersive storytelling, and I'm really interested in the idea of creating worlds where, instead of audiences are passive, and that it's much more, that we're creating communal experiences, but using immersive storytelling techniques. And so that is something over the next few years that I'm really interested in doing. And I'm interested in don't hate me, I am interested in using AI in quite an interesting way, in a way that once they have been created, so once they've been created, authored, built, performed, designed by human beings, that they can take on a life, an AI life. And I like to see if that, so that they're authored. So don't get me wrong, this isn't just like a prompt which creates a character. It's completely authored. but then allowing something that's been designed to then have its own life after that. So it has the human creativity to drive it from the word go, and then move on from that. So that's something an area that I'm quite interested in.
That is indeed pioneering cool. That's very cool. Thank you.
What's also great about that too, because I'm with you on this. I was talking to Gareth Edwards about this, about how he did The Creator, and he was talking about how AI can be used as a tool for good. Also, Victor, who does these panels, is like the best at doing these panels. He also has a great outlook on AI too. I think that's such a fascinating way to approach it.
Because I mean, let's face it, it's not going away. It's out of the bag. The genie's out of the bottle, and we as creators have to harness it. And if you teach AI to be good and to put good out there into the world with AI, then I think you're doing something very positive.
Like Superman, you know, like he came here from another planet, learned with people, and he's the best of humanity. Anyway, go ahead. How are you?
I'm good. Hi. So obviously you're synonymous with a lot of us for, Planet of the Apes, Lord of the Rings, now Star Wars. But my favorite role of yours is actually in 13 Going on 30. So with this renaissance we're seeing of the rom-com genre, if the right script came along, do you think you would pop up in one of those again, in that kind of goofy, silly, like, just so fun and kitschy
That's
kind
a very
of role?
serious role I was playing. Goofy, silly, no, I'm joking. Of course, I like everything. That is one thing. With me, I don't sort of set myself in one area. I like to try everything. So as long as a character is interesting and is multifaceted and there's stuff to play, then yeah, of course, I'd love to do something like that.
Incredible. Thank you. Hi, how are you?
I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. I just had a question about Gollum. So if you could see Gollum having a chance for some sort of like redemption arc and being able to redeem himself, what do you think that would look like, and how might the journey have ended differently?
It's a great question, that, and it is a sort of huge question that everyone asks about that character. Is there a possibility for redemption? I've played some incredibly dark characters in my life, and I think as a human being, one has to believe that there is a possibility of redemption. And certainly, as an actor playing a role, you cannot approach a role by not thinking that. You have to find the kind of morally relative kind of world where that character believes that what they are doing is right, irrespective of if they're failing miserably. People don't operate in a way where they're thinking, I'm going to do some really nasty, horrible stuff. They don't think like that, but they just do. They do stuff. So I think with Gollum, the fact that fate is such a huge part of his journey. The fact that the ring came to him. The ring is obviously a force of its own, and so you have to believe that. The way it affects Gollum is it has leached onto part of his personality, which is perhaps not as strong and able to deal with it, and which is why I based the character very much on the notion of addiction when I was playing him, when I entered into the role. It was like the ring is like an addiction that he cannot escape from. But you're not telling me that people who do suffer from addiction, they have to believe that they can be redeemed, and people do redeem themselves, and people do stop themselves from being addicted. So that for me is kind of how I perceive that.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm getting really heavy. That was an incredible answer. Let's liven it up. Let's talk about 13 Going on 30.
Hello, how are you?
Hello. First of all, on behalf of the people of South Africa, Miniat, I would like to thank you very much for being the only actor who has ever managed to get the South African accent correct.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for saving us from Leonardo DiCaprio. However, now back to my regular accent. I'm curious, how did you, because it is genuinely one of the most difficult accents to learn for any role, let alone for Marvel as Ulysses Grant, I'm curious, how did you develop the skill? How long did it take for you to develop that accent? Because also I know the accent is often the last thing to work on for actors. I'm curious what process you had to go through.
Well, I have to say I was lucky in the sense that my sister lives in Johannesburg, so I have been over to South Africa. I filmed in South Africa on a number of occasions. We shot the film I directed, Mowgli, which is the kind of the Rudyard Kipling version of the Jungle Books, as opposed to the Disney ones. So I shot there, and then another film I shot out there, Breathe, which is my directorial debut. We shot there, so I have spent time there, and there are some. It's funny. Some accents are easier for some actors than others. I mean, I cannot do a Welsh accent to save my life. I just can't do it. It's horrendous, and it just sounds so bad. Like, but for some reason, it was one of those accents that I just was able to hook into. I don't know, and I think many actors are like that. You know, there are ones they feel that they have to work really hard at, and you get a dialect coach, and you work, but no matter how hard you try, it still slips occasionally. But with that one, it sort of fit. You know?
Excellent, thank you. I also have a gift for you, if I'm able to come up quickly and
Oh,
hand it over. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. That's so lovely. Is it a bracelet or a...
It's a crocheted heart, some stickers. It's a crocheted heart, some stickers. My wife made them. We're big fans of yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's really cool.
Thank you, that's awesome. Thank you so much, man. Hi.
Oh, amazing.
By the way, with the South African accent, just one second, with the South African accent, was it easy to turn off and turn on, or do you have to stay in it when you were?
I mean, I think you do kind of then, you try and you sort of speak during the day while you're filming, or you just keep it going as much as you can. But you do break off. I didn't sort of stay in character for the entire time, but no, I do. You do end up just to keep it going. Sure.
Interesting. Hi.
Hi, Andy. My name is Charlotte, and one night I happened upon a documentary where you were working with a team of scientists to bring back to life a Neanderthal. They had found the remains, right, of this Neanderthal man. I think they named him Ned. And not only was it fascinating, I also thought it was really important, because at least here in America, there's so much, it's either science or art. It's never science and art. But seeing y'all work together to make that happen was awesome. Could you talk a little bit about that experience, and if you were asked to do something like that again, be it with scientists or maybe even historians bringing historical figures back to life, would you do it?
Absolutely. I mean, again, if any of this, going back to the AI thing, it's like if I feel in some way that it's contributing to us all understanding the human condition in a better way, in a more healthy way, in a way of kind of respecting each other, and so on. I think art and science are, they are interchangeable. They're both different forms of magic, and they're both, but put together, and seeing them being put together, I think is what can be incredible, to allow us to understand our forebears, and for instance. It's really interesting in terms of bringing historical characters back to life. I mean, again, there are different approaches. Obviously, we're used to one way, which is, say, Gary Oldman playing Winston Churchill with prosthetic makeup, to look like, a great team of fantastic makeup artists working to study, Winston Churchill's face and then make it work with Gary Oldman's face. But there are ways, and will be ways in the future, where using AI, you can, and especially if there's lots of footage around of the historical person, where you can create, you can take lots of different shots or photographs and use all, every single bit of data around a likeness of someone like, say, Abraham Lincoln or someone like that. You know, and instead of using prosthetic makeup, you can literally have an actor drive a digital version, a digital facial version of Abraham Lincoln based on actual photogrammetry, photographs, and there wasn't so much footage obviously of Abraham Lincoln, but photographs particularly. So I think that marriage of science and art is only a great thing, and allows you then to bring characters to life in really interesting and more realistic ways.
It's the evolution of cinema.
Hope to see it again. Hope to see you do that again sometime.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi.
The way that you did. My dad read me The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings before I could understand a word of language, so it's always been a character that has been with me basically my whole life. And all the characters, really, in Lord of the Rings, which is actually why my favorite work of yours is the audiobooks that you did for Lord of the Rings. I wanted to know, listening to it, I heard some kind of essence of maybe some of your fellow actors
I don't know what you mean.
but some of the characters, but not in some of the other characters. And I was just wondering if there was a thought process, what the kind of thought process was, of how you kind of differentiated that. I kind of expected I'd get a full cast voice acting for the book when I heard you were doing it, but I want to know, like, what was the kind of process?
I mean, I have to say, doing the recordings of, so I did The Hobbit first of all, and then I was asked by the Tolkien estate and HarperCollins, who are the publishers in the UK, to do The Lord of the Rings. And I was like, I had 2 weeks to record The Hobbit and 6 weeks to record all 3 Lord of the Rings books. And there are 127 characters in The Lord of the Rings. And it was literally one of the most challenging things, going in every day for 8 hours with just you and a microphone, and kind of trying to bring this thing to life, trying to bring it to life. And of course I channeled, I've lived with those guys making those films, so partially I was channeling them, but I was also trying to bring a kind of slightly, I wasn't just trying to mimic them, I was some more channeling them in a way. But then there were that was only kind of like 9 characters out of the 127, and then the others. The only way I could remember the different voices for the characters was the relationship of myself to the microphone. So it was literally, there were physical positions. They're all different. 127 different physical positions that I found myself doing, or gestures that, or I'd hold myself in a particular way, or physical. I'd have to physicalize each one to actually, when I returned to it, I'd know what I'd done. So it was a very interesting process. Then I came to do the Silmarillion, and I was like, has anybody read the Silmarillion? Yeah. Put your hands up, anybody who's read the Silmarillion. 4. And there's a good reason. It's impossible. It's such a hard book to bring off the page. I mean, it's really tough. I mean, I love it. And there are passages in it which really take you, and I felt myself, as I was reading it, sort of just literally floating away into another space. But it's a real tough read, but a beautiful read. It is the sort of the creation story, for those of you who don't know. The creation myths, if you like, it's almost like a Bible, a Middle-earth Bible, really. It's an amazing book.
Incredible.
Thank you. I always wondered if there was some physicality to how to remember those characters, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi, how are you?
Any anecdotes or fun experiences being on set with David Bowie or Chris Nolan in Prestige?
I have to say, working with David Bowie was a huge pleasure. I had to pinch myself. I've adored his music. I grew up with his music, but he's such a funny person. David was such a funny person. His soul rest in peace. Well, actually, may his soul not rest in peace. May it be jiving somewhere. He's so self-deprecating, so humble, and such a fun guy to be around. He was fascinated by it. We talked a lot about performance capture. Actually, he was fascinated by it. I think he was quite interested in the idea of doing something at the time, using it. But he was playing Nikolai Tesla, and he had to do a Serbian accent, and it sounded quite French, really. He was aware that his Serbian accent was a little bit sketchy, and he kept saying, "I think I sound a little bit like Clouseau." But he couldn't. He literally. He was one of those actors who he found it very easy to corpse, and you just smile and not even be able to get through a scene. And we had a lot to do, if you remember from the film, there's a lot with cats in that, cats again in my life. These cats get magically created using his technology, Tesla's technology. And yet, what we had to play with on set was really, really not very good furry kind of replicas of cats. And between us, we barely got through any of those scenes because we were constantly laughing. I mean, it was a tough one. It was a real tough one. But he was a genius and a lovely man.
Thank you. Incredible. We have 5 minutes left, but before we get, so we're going to rapid fire these next few questions. Before we get to that, let's hear it for our ASL interpreters. Everybody can vote. There we go. All right, we're going to rapid fire these. Let's go.
Hi, Andy. So first of all, love your work in Lord of the Rings. Like genuinely, like at a very young age, like some of the very first movies I've ever got into, and you obviously helped pioneer like motion capture and stuff like that. And I was just wondering, what is your favorite motion capture moment you've ever been a part of, whether it be with Gollum or Caesar or Snoke?
Well, that is tricky. I mean, I suppose it would have to be, because it was a kind of seminal moment in the Two Towers where Gollum and Smeagol first talked to each other, and that was a huge breakthrough moment in the trilogy for us to all understand where we were going with the two parts of his personality. I think that scene, because it was the writers, Philippa and Fran Walsh, Peter, myself. It was a real kind of moment where all of us together understood the potential of that character and the fact that would then evolve into very much two different aspects of his personality. So I think that would have to be, because it was. And I remember seeing the very first time seeing it at the Ziegfeld Theatre in New York at the world premiere of Two Towers. And I remember the audience sitting there, and I was at the back of the theatre and I was watching, and I literally saw in that scene. I just saw the whole cinema just suddenly go like lean in, and I just thought, Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ulysses Claw in the Marvel Studios with you. And what clinched it for me was in Black Panther, when the character was sitting inside of the detention area where they were questioning him, and he started singing, "Don't hurt me, don't hurt me." And I said, how much of that is real and how much of that was scripted, was improvised?
It was, I started singing some stuff, and then Brian Coogler, the director, he's a brilliant director, and he just started saying, no, that's not, it's great, I love you singing, but let's think of another artist, and then he sort of said, what about Hadfield? And I was like, oh yeah, that's great. So then the next take, and Martin Freeman didn't know that I was going to do it, actually. He had no idea, and he nearly wet himself when I did it. Honestly, because, I was sitting there, a bit chained to the chair, and when I started going, "What is love?" Martin, he nearly died. It was brilliant. It
was brilliant. All right, I think you're going to be our last question, sir.
I also loved you in Black Panther and as well as Planet of the Apes, but my question is, what's been your favorite video game to be a part of?
Oh, wow. The first video game that I ever got to be a part of was, I was asked to direct a video game called Heavenly Sword. It was a company called Ninja Theory, and I just finished doing King Kong, and I came back to the UK and was just in the process of setting up my company, The Imaginarium, and it was the first time, I think, it was for PlayStation 3, and it was the first time and it was a sort of games were going through this change from being not just about gameplay, but actually good cinematics and good storytelling and good characters within the game. And so I feel very privileged to have been sort of part of that early, you know, and that was literally, I think, one of the first ones with such, because I directed the actors in rehearsals. We rehearsed it like a piece of theatre. Everyone worked on their characters with them, and then we actually played out the whole game like a piece of theatre. In a whole, just like, you know, literally getting up and then doing the scenes like a piece of theatre. And nobody had really done that before, and it was really exciting. And there were people kind of going, "Oh no, nobody's going to be interested in cutscenes and the cinematics. No, we just want the gameplay." And I think that one of the things that has evolved beautifully, and that was probably the next game that I did, was Into the West, which is again with the same company. Was how gameplay and cinematics sort of began to blend more, so that the character and story were all moving forward with the gameplay at the same moment. So, but that first one was a real, it was a game changer for me.
Incredible. Well, look, if you had a question for Andy, I highly urge, you have your own personal experience, meet Andy in his booth, ask your question there. We do have some shirts. You want to throw out some shirts with me?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Woo! Okay, it is December 1st, so Merry Christmas, y'all.
All right.
Thank you, Joe, for being such an amazing host. You're amazing. Really, thank you.